Now, yesterday, the Premier League finally ended. It was a very exciting afternoon, particularly for the fans of Chelsea, Leicester City and Liverpool, all of whom were battling out, three of them battling out for 2 Champions League places. In the end, it was Liverpool and Chelsea who claimed the places, but the Chelsea-Leicester thing was very, very changeable, and for a while it looked like Leicester were home and dried and Chelsea were going to get a very bad beating, because the fail from where they were earlier in the season would have been seen as a big error, and they would have had to win the Champions League next Saturday night to qualify for Europe. But in the end, it was Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea for top 4. And John Giles joins me now to discuss this season and yesterday in particular. John, have to begin, of course, with Manchester City. That's 3 league titles in 4 seasons for Pep Guardiola. And there was a magnificent ceremony at the end of the game, which showed many things. But one of them was that they have more staff, that is medical dietitians, medical people and all of that. It was quite extraordinary. But they held this magnificent and well-deserved celebration in the middle of the Etihad Stadium. They won it with 86 points, which compared to Liverpool and indeed City in the previous season was a relatively low final total. But they did start the season poorly, John. I think they were 8th around Christmas. But in the end, this fellow Ruben Dias, centre-half, had a dramatic effect on their team in terms of goals conceded, and they got the job done. And they deserve the praise, and Guardiola deserves the praise for the second half of the season when they were awesome. But it was true, John, was it not, that for quite a bit of the season early on, they didn't look great.
No, I'd written them off. Early parts of the season.
Me too.
I thought they'd gone. They didn't have this energy that they had in previous seasons. And I said, no, not this, they've gone. I couldn't see it. But apparently they had a big meeting, around that time of the season with the players in, and they said Fernandinho was very, very responsible in saying that what they weren't doing, which was, as you know, we admired him over the years with getting the ball back and putting the teams under pressure. And from then on, they got back to their old ways, apparently. Well, they did, as the results showed. But I had written them off, definitely, after 6, 7, 8 matches, Eamon.
Yeah, we
I thought they're not going to do it. They're not playing the way they were playing. And as you say, they got the lad Ruben Dias in, and he had the Van Dijk effect, I think, on them.
Yes,
Eamon.
That's right. Yeah, one player, in fact, can make a difference. And for City, and indeed for Guardiola throughout his career, conceding goals with outstanding forwards has been a problem at Barcelona, even, and certainly at Bayern Munich. There was the same thing in his early years at City, but he's cured that for now. And of course, they will be focused very much on the last target, which is top of Manchester City's list of things to do when they brought Guardiola in. It was to win the Champions League, and they have the opportunity to do that against Chelsea, John, next Saturday night in Porto.
Yeah, I'd have to say there, Stones made a big difference to them as well, coming back to form.
Yes,
this was the lad at Everton, as we know. He was looked a top-class player, went out. I think he had personal troubles anyway, that might have accounted for that. But he came back to form this year. So between Diaz and him, it was a different City,
yes,
as you said, to the ones that we've been used to, giving too many goals away. So that was a huge difference as well.
Now, just a couple of players I'd like to talk to you about, the City players. Raheem Sterling, John, has had a very poor season and only started in, I think, 2 of the last 9 matches. And I don't think he'll start, unless there are injuries, in the Champions League final. I don't know what the explanation for him going backwards is. It possibly to do, he started a foundation, he's got involved more with the fight against racism off the field, and that, of course, is understandably a priority. But if you start getting involved in things off the field. Marcus Rashford is another totally admirable person, very courageous and very, very proud football should be of these two lads for the work they do off the field. It can, unfortunately, and invariably does, take away from your performance on the pitch.
Yeah, well, football needs, when you're in a footballer, it needs everything.
Yeah.
It needs everything, and it's a very, very delicate situation between ready for a match or not being ready for a match. The slightest thing can knock you off.
Yeah.
And it could well be the case. Like, he has played very, very poorly.
Yeah.
In any match that he has been brought on for Manchester City, and I would doubt very much whether he will appear in the as a first choice in the Champions League final.
Yeah.
He just hasn't been. He hasn't been doing it. And young Foden has come on, and people like that. So, and I think young Rashford was the same in his situation. Admirable, as you would say, to do what he was doing, but I think it did take away from his form as a professional footballer. It's a very, very delicate situation, and especially this season, Eamon, with the amount of gains coming on top of each other. That's a huge factor in it as well.
It's been a very tough season. John, you were a great player, one of the greatest of all time. You have to be selfish, John, even of your family, everything.
Oh, Eamon, I was totally selfish.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Totally selfish. It meant everything. I remember the kids. I used to go, if any of the kids were ill in that, I used to go into a hotel on Friday night.
Yeah.
And we were playing at home. When we played away, we were in the hotel anyway, all the matches. But I had to say, I had to say to Anne, look, I can't, I have to get a night's sleep. And luckily enough, she understood it.
And that's single-mindedness. You need it.
You have to have it, Eamon. And it is selfish, totally selfish.
Yeah.
And I was totally selfish. I was one of the most selfish people you've ever met in your life when it came to the football.
Yeah,
because I knew from concentrating on it in the game, anything that knocks you off a little bit, Eamon, knocks you off totally.
Yes. Yeah. You're all in or nothing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, one player before we move on from Manchester City, Aguero. His last game yesterday, he appears to be going on a free transfer to Barcelona. He appears to be hugely loved by his teammates and indeed by Pep Guardiola and the Manchester City fans. He's been a magnificent goal scorer, hasn't he? A real top player.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, when you get lads like that, you don't get many of them. You don't get many of them to do what he did. He's breaking records and his attitude. He's always played for the team, did his stuff.
Yeah.
Good lad. No trouble. If you look back over the years with Aguero, you never hear anything about whether he was out when he shouldn't have been out and all that, the stuff that we get from some of the players, especially the younger lads. Just a top pro.
Yeah.
Did the job. And you could see the affection from everybody surrounding him.
Yes.
With Manchester City. He was brilliant. They're lads you love.
Yes.
As players, whether you support Manchester City or you don't.
Yeah.
And to a slightly lesser success, a great send off to Gini Wijnaldum at Liverpool. You could see the affection there, Eamon, from
respect.
Nobody knows you like your fellow players, Eamon.
Yes, yeah. Because you're in
if you have the respect and love which we've seen from these two players, then they're the real McCoy.
Yes.
As players, brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant.
No, it is, and it's one of the strongest bonds in many ways you'll ever form in life. That kind of thing that's in a team, because you're with each other all the bloody time, and you're in a battle all the time. And you know each other. You know who's going to wilt, and you know who's not going to wilt.
Yeah, it's like being in the army. I always think it's like being in the army. When you're in a team, well, I had it, thank goodness, with the Leeds lads. In those days, you were playing behind the Iron Curtain.
Yeah.
There was no matches televised, and you were getting a tough time.
Yeah.
In lots of these matches.
Yeah.
And you had to stick together.
Yes.
You really had to stick together, and that was it. And on the physical side, particularly away from home, but in the big matches, you depended on each other. You really depended on each other because you're only as good as the team that your teammates and what the team stands for. And it was like being in the army, and you have this bond.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of the Leeds lads now that I played with them have passed away, unfortunately.
Yes.
But when we did get together, it was like we'd never been apart.
Yes.
And we weren't talking about, well, oh, you scored this goal, you scored. It was nothing like that.
No.
It was just a bond that was there because that's what we had. That's what you have to do together, like the Liverpool lads have done in recent time, and the old Liverpool team.
Yes.
And particularly Aguero, getting back to Aguero with the Manchester City lads.
Yeah.
That has been there. Absolutely brilliant. And you have it for life, Eamon.
Yes. Yeah. Now the City. They won by 12 points in the end from Manchester United. We've talked a lot about United, John, and I think I'd agree with Roy Keane's assessment of them. They do need to buy some top-class players. They need a top-class player in the heart of their defence, in my opinion, anyway. Certainly need a top-class midfield player, and they have scored enough goals, but they've given away an awful lot of goals. They could do with signing 2 or 3 players. And the Glazers, for their own good, really, could do a lot for their standing with the fans if they signed a couple of cheques. One of them for Harry Kane. Yeah,
could happen, Eamon.
Yeah,
it could happen. I think Solskjaer has done a reasonably good. They have improved under him, Eamon.
Yeah,
but I really don't have confidence in Solskjaer as a manager.
No,
I think I'd go for somebody that dominates more than that. Anyway, that's my take. But they have improved, there's no doubt. But you're quite right. Will they go for Harry? I wouldn't be surprised because they could come into a competition with City to get Kane.
Yes,
but it would certainly win a lot of the supporters back. I mean, who have objected to the family and that.
Yeah.
If they do buy Kane.
Yeah,
I think I wouldn't be surprised if they get him.
No. There was a time when Manchester United was the desired destination of all the great players, but that time has passed. Just to say on Solskjaer, there's no denying he's done a job. They're in the Europa League final, which is this week, and they are favourites to win it against Villarreal. He's too self-effacing, you would have thought. Now, it's self-effacing is a nice quality in many people, particularly bosses, actually. But it's not what you think of when you think of, say, Alex Ferguson. He certainly wasn't self-effacing. Neither was Matt Busby, Bill Shankly, or the other great managers that we've seen. So we'll leave it at that. Now, John, Liverpool got the job done yesterday, and over the last few weeks, they've got back, helped by Mo Salah's goals a lot, but they got the job done yesterday. And when they get their players back, Van Dijk and Henderson being principally the two, they'll hopefully get back to where they were 12 months ago. They will miss Wijnaldum, John. I thought he's a fabulous player. He works so hard. His intelligence to read situations, to intercept passes, to harass creative players, and to get the odd goal. Very, very good player. He's going, I think, now. He was to be going to Barcelona, but I think Bayern Munich have stepped in and taken him on a free. But he deserves everything he gets, doesn't he?
Well, it shows you the game today, Eamon. He can leave. It's up to him to leave.
Yes.
And good luck to him. He's going to look after his own future. And good luck to him. And he's done his stuff at Liverpool as well. But gone are the days where he wouldn't have been able to move. That you're staying here, and that's the end of it. So that's a great plus for the players and for him. Obviously, he's got to look after his future. He's got to look after his family. He's done his job at Liverpool that he was paid to do. And good luck to him. He's been a good lad, really top-class player for Liverpool, and very, very influential player for them.
Now, John, the sad story yesterday was Leicester, really. They got 2 penalties, and they couldn't beat Spurs at home. They don't go to Europe, to the Champions League, rather. They'll go to the Europa League, which is I'm not sure, it's a mixed blessing, if you like. In fact, it's no blessing at all, except for the money men. But Brendan Rodgers will be bitterly disappointed, but they've still had a decent season given the size of their club and resources at his disposal.
I think they've had a great season, Eamon.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, he's won the cup.
Yeah.
He was unfortunate. He went to the last match of the season to not to qualify with the big clubs. I mean, if you look at the teams that have qualified, the 4 clubs, they were all part of the European League controversy
they were,
a couple of weeks ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They have the resources. He if you look at Brendan Rodgers, he spent very little in the team. He's brought players on, these young fellas. I mean, normally you can judge players how much are the managers. You know, what has he got? What has he got at his disposal? How much has he got to spend? What players can he get in? You know, you have to take that into consideration. And he's nicked out in the last game of the season to be in the big four.
Yeah.
And winning the cup as well. I think he's had a fantastic season. And unfortunately, it comes. I mean, if he'd been in 6th or 7th place, Eamon, and won the cup, and never looked like getting into the Champions League, everybody said, "What a great season he's had at Brendan." And he's failed. He failed a bit last year as well, but at least he's knocking at the door.
Yeah,
he's up there. I mean, look at Arsenal. Look at some of the Spurs, for example.
Yeah.
You know, nowhere near him. No. You know.
Now,
job he's done in relation to them.
We haven't talked much about West Ham, John, but they finished 6th. They'll be in the Europa League. And David Moyes, their perennial relegation fodder, West Ham, they always seem to scrape out of it, or mostly. But this is a really good job he's done. And Declan Rice came back into the side yesterday. He'd missed a couple of months of the season, but in the early parts of the season, I know you think very, very highly of him, and there's talk of him going now maybe to Chelsea. But wherever he goes, well, let's praise David Moyes first. David Moyes has been a really good manager of Everton for a very, very long time. Then Alex Ferguson nominated him as his successor at Manchester United. He wasn't given much of a chance there, and then he had to go and start again. And I'm very, very happy for him. He is a good football man with loads of knowledge, discipline, never sings the blues, and he's had a great season.
Been brilliant, Eamon.
Yeah.
I mean, how you judge the managers? Well, I think we judge the managers. A lot of people will judge the man. What have they got at their disposal, and what have they done?
Yeah.
You know, as you say, West Ham. Don't forget, he was there originally. He did a good job for it. Then they sacked him and they brought him back. But they're always, right, apart from him being the manager, they were always fighting against relegation.
Yeah.
Totally now that he's brought a few players in, hasn't spent a lot of money, but there's an honesty about them, there's a way about them. I think he's done a great job. And you can only go, Eamon, what they have at their disposal.
Yes.
You know, like you said to me, we'd be talking about the manager of the year, which is Pep. And Pep, I think, is the obvious one.
Yes.
But I just wrote down a couple of things, special mentions. You know, Sean Dyche at Burnley.
Yes.
You know, David Moyes.
Yeah.
Like Bielsa at Leeds.
Yes. Yeah.
Brendan Rodgers.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And Steve Bruce. Look at Steve Bruce's situation.
They finished.
You know, like the fans hated him and he's finished up about 15, 20 points away from the relegation zone.
He has indeed. They have 45 points, but there's Wolverhampton, Wanderers, Crystal Palace, Southampton, Brighton and Burnley below them, and then of course the 3 relegated teams. He is a good man, Steve Bruce. I know we keep saying it every week, but he was a wonderful player for Manchester United in Alex Ferguson's first team, really, and a captain of that team, and is a really good football man who gives his heart and soul to the game, although he keeps getting lousy jobs, either clubs in the Championship who want to go into the league, or clubs in the league who want Premier League who want to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah, and especially at Newcastle, Eamon, because they're very precious about who comes in, and because he's been the Sunderland manager, they didn't want him in the first place. So he spent very, very little money. So there's all the things that's a real good managerial job in my say. Sean Dyche, keeping Burnley up there, Eamon.
Yeah,
every year.
Yeah,
you know, it's a lot to take with the supporters, Eamon. You know, because that's where they are, because everybody wants to do well. No, I think those lads. I mean, as you say, Dyche. I mentioned Dyche.
Yeah,
Moyes, Bielsa. Yeah. I mean, Bielsa's job. I know everybody thinks I want to talk about Leeds. I know you want to talk
about Leeds. Let's get it over with then. Okay. Now,
I mean, to get a promotion, Eamon, like it is, and the football they played right to the end of the season. Because a lot of people said at the start of the season, the way they play, they'll get tired, and actually the last 4 matches of the season, they've won the 4 of them.
Yeah.
So a huge job, again, without spending a lot of money, Eamon.
And they say that, you know, one acid test of a coach is how He improves players. Patrick Bamford, John, didn't ever strike me as a terrific player, but or a goal scorer. He scored 17 goals, John. He's banging there, just behind the contenders for the Golden Boot. So it's an amazing
It's a remarkable aim.
Yeah, he's
got Ailey. You know, the lad that plays right. Sorry, Damon.
He qualifies for Ireland, but he's chosen. He said, I laughed when I heard it about a year or two ago. He said he was waiting for England to call, and I said, "Yeah, well, dream on, Patrick." But to keep scoring goals like that, who knows?
Yeah, I think he's in the panel. I think he was in one of the panels there, for England.
Right.
Unbelievable. I thought if he scored 10 goals at the season, he'd do well. That's what I thought to start the season. I thought Leeds would struggle. Could have a struggle because he didn't have a goal scorer. And he's come up with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they got this lad Ayling plays right back, Eamon. You know, I'd have him in the England team. But he's just done a remarkable job. And amazingly, I know we spoke about it before in your programme, he hasn't signed his contract yet.
No, so Spurs could still...
Would Spurs come in for him?
Not a chance.
No, you don't think so?
I don't. If I was the Spurs, I'd be in for him like a shot. But I don't think Daniel Levy would see the virtue of an Argentine.
No, we'd see the price, Eamon.
Well,
he'd see the price. In other words, he hasn't signed his contract, so he'd get him for nothing.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be a high, a 20 million a year man. You know,
okay.
But the business side of it, I think, would appeal to Levy.
I'm sure it would. Now let's talk about Spurs. They're a basket case, John. Although they did win at Leicester yesterday, they really are a basket case, and you can't blame Harry Kane. Apparently, Levy's angry at him for expressing himself in public, and Harry thinks he has a gentleman's agreement. To have a gentleman's agreement, you have to have a gentleman on the other side of the table. He's got to get away, John. There's no going back for Kane, is there?
No. Well, if there's going to be a dispute, Eamon, about who's to blame, I wouldn't be backing Daniel Levy in it.
No,
I'd back Kane all the time. So I think he's made a mess of the place. I mean, Spurs are one of the big clubs, as we know, Eamon.
Yeah.
And as you said, they're a basket case.
Yeah.
I mean, Kane has done his stuff. He's I think he's leading goal scorer again this year.
He is.
You know, he's become a great player.
Yes.
And you know, why would he want to hang around like that? It all goes back to Levy, what he's done. He's been in control of the situation. I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
So there's nobody else to blame there but him. But of course he won't take the blame for it. But I think Harry Kane is right to insist on going. And don't forget, he's not going for nothing, Eamon.
No, I don't think so.
You know what I mean? You're talking about 125, 150 million.
Yeah.
So Levy won't be doing too bad out of it, a business tech. I mean, he came as a kid.
Yeah. And he went
and he'll demand the biggest price for him.
He went out on loan to 3 or 4 lower division clubs, including going to Millwall, my old club. And he is a Londoner. He's a Spurs fan. He's a good lad, Harry Kane. I think he's a good type of person. You know, he's got values and principles. And let's hope that he does get the move that he richly deserves. Another club that is almost a basket case, and in both Spurs' case and Arsenal's case, you can put it down to the owners, really, and the way they've run their clubs over the years. But Arsenal are going nowhere fast, and it's a shame because Mikel Arteta seems like he's a coach with good ideas. He's brought some young players into the team, but at the end of the day, you have to have the big players. And some of the big players they signed, Pepe in particular, and Aubameyang after he got his new contract, haven't done it. Yeah, well,
they've been asking for it for a while, Eamon. I mean, the way they treated Wenger, for example, when he was leaving was disgraceful.
Yeah.
And what they said, actually, at the time, was there's nobody in the future at this club will have the power that Wenger had.
Yeah.
Right? Well, the reason they were successful was because of the power that Wenger had.
Yeah.
And these guys take over and have a director for all the various things they do. I feel sorry for Arteta, Eamon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think he's not been given the tools to do what's needed to be done there, and it's a very, very difficult job as one of the really big clubs in the Premiership.
Okay, now John, Player of the Year and Coach of the Year. I think I know which coach is going to get it. Bielsa?
No.
Oh, Pep.
No, I think I wouldn't give it to Bielsa. He's done a great job, Eamon, but Guardiola has to get it.
Yeah.
Has to get it.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I've always been. I've had reservations about Guardiola's inattention to the defensive side of the game and apparent disregard for it. I think he said once in an interview that his ideal team would have 11 midfield players and they'd all be rotating and that. But yeah, you can't deny him turning around City in the middle of the season when they were going nowhere and getting the job done. Now, Player of the Year, John.
Well, I have to go with that Ruben Diaz, Eamon.
Okay.
I think City have come back in a big way, as you say, with Pep. I think this guy was responsible. I definitely think he had a Van Dijk effect on the team, along with John Stones, who came back and was very near the player we all expected him to be. So I think Ruben Diaz made that change, a vital change in the team.
Right.
That saw them through, as you say, concentrating more on defending. They were. I think they went a certain amount of matches without conceding a goal. For a long period. So that was the criticism you had of them, quite rightly, in that they gave up too many easy goals. So there was a definite rethink there that made a huge difference to them.
Yeah.
So
the thing about him, John, that used to bug me was that I always think that defence and great defenders are as important as great attackers. Not so eye-catching, and they don't make you sort of swoon. But great defenders almost make me swoon. I think of Maldini. I think of the great Italian defenders that we've seen over the years, and great English defenders as well. And I kind of do swoon when I see a really, top defender.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, and I understand. I always understood the criticism you had, and it was legitimate criticism.
Yeah.
But what he believed in, Eamon, which I didn't believe it. I believe in defenders as well.
Yeah.
But what he believed in was that if we put pressure on the opposition in their own half of the field, and we have players that can hold the ball all the time, we don't need to defend as much, which is true. I mean, he did win trophies doing a lot of trophies doing what he did.
Before last, doing it really. And they crucified teams. They won it with 100 or 101 points, more points than anyone else ever got, and they were awesome when they were doing that.
Yeah, so that's we all have different ideas on football, and I've always agreed with that. They should pay more attention to defending, but that was his way of defending. Right. Now, I'm as I'm not a Manchester City supporter, but from Manchester City's point of view, I think what he's done with Diaz and Stones back to where he was, and Laporte has come on as well. They're actually solid.
Yeah.
Now, defend. The goalkeeper's brilliant.
Yeah.
So he has a good defense. Actually, what he needs now, Eamon, is forwards.
He does. He needs a goal scorer.
We need a goal scorer now. You know what I mean? Because Mahrez is chipped in, and Foden is chipped in, and Gundogan is chipped in. So they're a different Manchester City than was, because without Aguero, who was one of the greatest, he's just not there. And Jesus hasn't filled his boots, and now they're big boots to fill, but he hasn't done so yet. So maybe if he gets Kane, then those problems should be solved in that situation. Should be.
There's just one thing I'd say about that. I think Harry Kane is the kind of striker. Well, like all great strikers, really, but like many of them anyway, should we say. He needs early ball delivered. That doesn't mean he can't come back, because he has come back in the last 12 months and played a lot deeper, and he can pick a pass out and make goals himself. But to score the goals, you do need the ball delivered. It takes City sometimes so long to get up the field with their pretty passing that he might get frustrated and be making runs. But maybe that's an argument you'd like to rip apart sometime in the future.
I'll do it now.
Go on then. Go on then.
No, I think Harry Kane has become a great player in the last 12 months or so because of what he's doing.
Yes.
Like, he was an out-and-out striker, and as you say, when you're an out-and-out striker, you're dependent on the supply that you get.
Yeah.
But what he has done is dropped deeper.
Yes.
Right? So he can get on the ball himself, and where the positions he takes up, it's very difficult for the centre-halves to mark him. Because if they follow him down, they're leaving a big space behind.
Yeah.
And I didn't think he'd ever have the ability to do what he's doing, which is to make the goals with the passes that he's making.
Yes.
And is still scoring as many goals himself.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, so I think he's reached greatness now in doing what he's doing.
Right.
Now, I think with the amount of ball that City have, Eamon, right, he'd be sensational.
Yes.
He wouldn't have to come back all that far sometimes.
Right.
But if he was being closely marked, he'd be able to do it and score the goal. I think he'd score more goals with City than he scored with Spurs.
Yeah, and now I'm going to go to my own player of the year. And I was going to go, I haven't really made my mind up. Harry Kane, I should give it to. Really, not only for all the great performances and the goals, but just for battling with adversity in a team for a coach, in a team that wasn't really at it, and for a coach who's, lost himself down some rabbit hole, i.e. Mourinho. But there's another player I'd like to have given it to Bruno Fernandes of Manchester United. And he really has had an effect, John, on Manchester United, a dramatic effect in terms of creativity, his goal scoring himself, his assists, the effect he has on the players around him. He takes responsibility, and I'll give it to Kane, but I wouldn't mind it giving it to Fernandes. What do you think about that?
No, I'd say he was in the running name. I have him on my list here as player. He's made a huge effect. On Manchester United.
Yes.
So I know it would definitely be in the running, in my running for it, definitely. And I feel sorry for Son as well.
Yeah, very good player.
At Spurs.
Yes.
Son is a terrific player. I mean, he's had a great season playing in a Spurs team that's been a mess.
Yes.
All those lads would be in contention, but no doubt about it.
Okay,
terrific,
John.
Terrific players.
Okay, it's great to talk to you. And just before we close down for the time being, but we'll be back for the Euros. Who's going to win the Champions League final next week, John? Now, you were very sweet on. I want to set you up first. You were very sweet on Chelsea. You told me Thomas Tuchel was the man. You said he had a dramatic effect, and he's had 3 bad weeks. Who's going to win the Champions League final?
I think, again, I think Tuchel has done a great job, Eamon.
Yeah.
Again, if I was putting money on it, I'd go for City.
Right.
I'd go for City. Because what Tuchel has done is brilliant. But they can't score, Eamon.
They can't, no.
You'd
have to get rid of Werner, John. He can't score. He's a terminal loss of confidence.
Yeah, but so are the other two, Eamon. I watched a bit of the match against Villa. I don't know which one it was. The ball came across, and he nearly kicked himself, Eamon. It was. And these lads, they're obviously. I don't know who it was. It was one of the strikers anyway. So, I think he's beaten City twice in it. But I think City had made a lot of changes at that particular time. Right. I still think it'll be close because they won't lose many goals. I think the first goal in the Champions League is going to be vital, Eamon.
Right. Okay.
Now I know it's vital in a lot of matches, but if City get the first goal and play the way they can play, keeping the ball, right,
might kill them.
Then Chelsea have to attack.
Yes.
And I think the best chance of winning is being able to defend the way they can defend and get a breakaway.
Right.
So if City score first, then they have to come out and start playing, and I think they'll be caught on doing that.
Okay.
But it'll be close.
Okay. And I just have a final pick myself. If I had on my shortlist was Mason Mount, Chelsea player.
Yes.
I think he's a brilliant player, John. He's a young lad. Yeah. He's got everything, including heart and courage. He's very good. Yeah.
Well, we'll just finish on this end because I was doing my list. I gave Giles Player of the Year, but I did for special mention. I had Harry Kane, Mason Mount, Mo Salah, Ayling at Leeds, Little Kante,
of course,
Fernandes, Son,
oh yeah,
Calvert-Lewin at Everton. I think has had a great season.
Yeah,
and Jack Grealish. They're all in the running.
Right.
You have to pick one of them.
Chief. Okay.
But,
we're very grateful to you, John. As always, we'll be talking to you during the Euros, and hopefully we'll talk to you next week about the Champions League final where Mason Mount may well score the winner. We're grateful to John Giles, of course,